This is a super cool project. It's got all the bells and whistles. Wetland filter, intake bay with a vanishing edge, new 60-inch bowl, a giant pond, cantilever deck, stepping stones, fire pit, you name it, we put it on this one.
Hey guys, it's Brian from Team Aquascape, and our channel is all about transforming outdoor living spaces with water features. Design and installation is who we are, and building backyard dreams is what we do.
First thing we did, come in here, kind of lay everything out. Here I am with Ralph Bezat from Pondscapes AZ, just measuring out our intake bay area, our negative edge area. We are gonna put in a 6,000 plus gallon intake bay area, and we need to get in here and start digging this thing right away, because if we do anything else with the pond, we will cut off all of our access for it. So we're laying out the measurements for our intake bay here. You can see it's pretty much just a big giant rectangle. I can't remember exactly what it was, but call it like 18 by 18-ish. We're going about 4 feet deep to leave a little bit of room for an extra waterfall falling into it. So a lot of soil came out of that thing. In the meantime, our truck just showed up with all of our pond product. This project's down in Bloomington, Illinois. It was a little too much for us to bring all the product down ourselves, so we had a commercial truck bring it down. Here we are unloading everything, our AQUABLOX, our biofalls, our pipe, our liner, etc., etc. And it's a distance from the driveway all the way to the back corner of the yard. So we have a couple guys staying busy. I'm just goofing around.
You're gonna be able to ice skate on this thing when I'm done with it.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Ice skating's stupid.
Reservoir's dug. We're getting ready to get our fabric and liner into that thing. Once we get our fabric and liner in there, then we can start taking all these AQUABLOX. Now it does take a quick second to put together over 180 AQUABLOX. Actually, it's exactly 180 AQUABLOX. The other thing you're gonna notice here is look at how we've triple stacked them. They're triple stacked because if I kept them at one level, that hole would have been massive and we would have run out of real estate for the pond and everything else. So the nice thing about those AQUABLOX is you can stack them on top of each other. All right, so one of the challenging things about this project is there's so many things going on in a tight space. We've got a deck that's going to come off of this. It's going to cantilever out over the pond. Underneath, we have some major drainage that we're dealing with. This entire driveway comes down through here. So not only do we have this 8-inch pipe in here trying to catch it, we're going to create like kind of a dry stream bed French drain system that goes underneath this with a little bit of a swale. All that's got to happen in between the corner of this and the goat enclosure over there. Off of this deck, right in this area, we're going to create some stairs that take you down into this pit and then back out. There's just like so much. Then there's a waterfall that's coming in here, pond over here. I see it. Now we just got to make sure that all of these rocks make this happen. Nothing like placing those first few rocks. It's always kind of exciting. It's kind of like butterflies in your stomach, you know, and some of those big games you might have played when you were in high school or something. But it went together pretty quick. The key to that was setting that reservoir a little bit lower than grade, so we did get a waterfall. It also helps with our grade change, moving water back into it. And now we're digging out that pond. What's kind of unique about this project is I didn't do a drawing, and for such a massive project, usually I like to do some kind of drawing, work off of some kind of game plan. But our customer Brett had a pretty good idea of what he was looking for, and it was big. he kept saying go bigger, go bigger, go bigger. And here's why: because every single one of our customers never complains of the pond being too small. If you talk to all of our past customers, the one thing they'll tell you to do is go bigger than you thought you were gonna, because after it's finished, you're gonna wish it was bigger. Well, Brett doesn't have any more space to go bigger. Definitely more property to do other features, but not go bigger. So here we are unloading the liner, bringing that up on that strap with the machine. Made it really easy just to kind of unroll it. All right, liner is in. We're gonna start rocking in over in here. This is gonna be a little tricky. We've got our cut for our wall going in. Found a carpenter. He's gonna come out and do our circle deck right in here. Off of that circle deck, we're gonna start placing some stepping stones. This is gonna be kind of unique because stepping stones are gonna come from the deck out to like kind of this peninsula that's gonna be out over in here. And so the stepping stones are gonna come from here out into the water, then back towards the peninsula, and then there'll be a bridge from there over to that side. And we haven't dug that part of the pond yet because we need this access for the machine to sit there to set all those boulders. So like I was saying, we got that machine access over there. You can see the green sheen in the front here. We're using that just to kind of dig out the swale for everything. Now we're here setting our block inside the pond. That's gonna support that cantilever deck. So it's really, really important that that thing's set up exactly at the right elevation. Jack and James are working on that wall, getting that wall set. We're just doing a straight wall, even though it's a curved deck, because with the lumber, they'll be able to manipulate the shape of that deck pretty effortlessly. Now, one of my favorite parts of the ponds, if you guys look here, kind of right in the center of the page, it's a big giant vertical rocks. Love those vertical rocks, especially when the pond gets filled up, because it just really kind of accentuates how deep the pond is. Luckily, their homeowner had one of these cat utility machines. We were able to drill out the footings for the deck, really helping the carpenter and save a bunch of time. So here's what kind of the rough shape of the pond looks like. You can kind of see over in the back where that yellow excavator is sitting, getting everything dug out. We're digging out another nook. Now, we're so lucky we always bring extra liner, because this is what I talk about with all of our customers. Never ever do I want to undersize the liner. We always greatly oversize the liner, and the expression I use is because I don't want to be handcuffed to creativity. And this is exactly that reason. If you can see that little bay in the back there, what we wanted to do is increase the size of the pond, letting the waterfall fall into a shallow 2 inch by 3 inch area, which was going to really allow that water to push out there. We're doing this whole project in 11 days, which is kind of unheard of. So, just 2 working weeks, get this whole thing done. So digging that area out, getting the liner stretched back out there, and then starting to place the waterfall stones. But setting more and more rocks in here, we're getting pretty creative with some stuff. Just setting some island rocks left and right. Now we brought the deck guys in. Oh, it was such an awesome accomplishment to get this deck done. And Brett had a carpenter that he knew really well from some of his past projects. And the guy came out and not only knocked it out of the park with how beautiful the deck looked, but did the whole thing in a day. A huge shout out to these guys. They just did an unbelievable job. And I like it so much more than a patio sitting there. That cantilever deck just looks so amazing. Put in this big drainage system here. Underneath these cobbles, we have a 10-inch pipe that actually goes down underneath the deck and daylights out over there. We knew that wouldn't handle all the water, so we also put in a swale. So in the event that they get like a torrential downpour, this will end up turning into a dry stream bed that goes underneath the deck. You can kind of see a pitch like this that will take the water through there. So we have to finish this dry stream bed look. There'll be a pathway that leads up to this deck. Part of the reason we put the deck in, it was originally designed to be a patio, but we needed to get the elevation to do the swale underneath, so a patio wouldn't have allowed us to do that. So the deck turned out awesome. 6,000 gallon reservoir down here, stone steps take you down and around, little waterfall coming into the whole thing. He upgraded with the new 60-inch bowl. You got Billy and James over there working on stuff. This ends up being a planting island. Stone steps take you across a section of the pond right in here that then leads you to the solid bridge over in that area, which would then take you to a fire pit over in there. So getting all the plumbing done, you can tell just like there's just so much stuff going on. Guys keeping busy everywhere, from the plumbing to finishing up the intake bay to now we're seaming folds down, cutting fabric. It's really helpful having, in the beginning, just a couple guys are necessary on these big projects, but a lot more needed when you start getting towards the end doing edge work and stuff. Now here's that bridge. We knew wasn't going to fit right. We intentionally set some of those big boulders over on the side into the bridge just a little bit, knowing that I have to come in and scribe a cut. I love doing this. It just makes the pond look like it's been there forever, and any man-made element had to get kind of altered around it. So here we are just kind of chipping away at these rocks, hoping this thing just pops right down in place. Not a huge fan of the color, but either was the homeowner. So he, what was nice about the way this bridge was installed is he just popped it back up, took it over to his wood shop, and you'll see the end result. We went with more of a gray color, which tied into that cantilever deck. Now we're over here digging our wetland. The pond is basically finished, minus all the edge work and everything else. Some things need to be buttoned up on the bottom. Lots of edge work, and that's a tedious process. But while guys can be doing that, Jack and I are over here just kind of digging out this wetland, getting this thing all cleaned up. Again, it's gonna be 56 large AQUABLOX. That'll give us quite a bit of filtration, especially with the bio balls in there. Another key element on this project is this custom stone fire pit. And what I loved about this came all the way from Idaho. Love the color, love the shape, love the size of it, but the ease of installation. I've never seen one where the whole bottom was actually cored out, making it so easy to do all the plumbing and set the rock and everything else. But just a great element, and you're gonna see this when it's all finished, just how awesome this area turned out, the whole fire pit area. Let's get over back to that wetland. We're digging in our centipedes on this particular pond. 1 snorkel, 3 centipedes, 56 large AQUABLOX. You can see that large trough kind of down in the middle. That's going to be where all of our centipedes go. Putting some sand in just to help level everything off. Then we'll come with our fabric, then the liner, definitely helps having some hands on this. One of my least favorite parts of the project is putting in liners. This one actually went in pretty fast. I think it took us 5-10 minutes to get the whole liner in, but helped with having that many guys out there. Now that the liner's in, we'll throw down another layer of that fabric, like I said, start putting in our AQUABLOX. Water, like I said before, kind of comes up through the centipede, through the small layer of AQUABLOX, and then through that large layer of AQUABLOX, which we've filled with bioballs. And we've done this a few times. Check out some of our past videos where we've done this. It's working really, really well. One of the big obstacles with this wetland, couple obstacles. One, the homeowner really wanted the wetland to have 12 inches of water, a little bit more kid interactive, almost baby pool type feel to it. Because he wanted 12 inches of standing water on top of the wetland, we had to do a lot more excavation, which meant more liner, which meant more fabric and everything else. The other problem with this, a 56 AQUABLOX wetland is a massive space. So we have to scale this thing down a little bit. And one of the ways we did this was using this giant log. I love making a project personal, and the easiest way to do that is pull elements from their property. This was a huge log sitting over there. There I am driving that up. Here we are strapping it up. Again, get it right in the center so we can move it over pretty effortlessly. And the idea of this log is, one, to make it look a little bit more natural. A big 30-foot log doesn't look like man placed it in there. And again, to kind of break up the squareness of the rectangleness of the wetland filter. So you can see here just how much that wetland filter is starting to shrink down. The use of the log, some of the big giant boulders, coming here, getting everything done. It's just looking so good. And now to even shrink it down a little bit more is just so we don't have such a giant footprint. We're bringing in some big giant urns. So we're going to use our stacked slate urns. It's just going to look perfect. We're going to do a large, a medium, a small. We like to do that trio all the time. And we're going to place these probably on the other side of that log. The main purpose for the urns in this project is to give them something that's super visible from inside the house without needing a giant berm. So the height of those urns makes them visible from 360 degrees. So whether in the pool, a different part of the yard, over on the deck, they're visible. We're finishing that up. Billy and Jack are kind of doing a lot of little button up things here, rinsing the pond down. This pond is going to hold close to 20,000 gallons, which is insane. 20,000 gallons. I think it's 25,000 total between the reservoir, the wetland, and the pond. Things are really starting to come together. We always say if things look good dry, then they even look better wet. And here we are just barely filling the pond up. It's probably got another 4 or 5 inches to go. And we still have to turn waterfalls and stuff on. It's definitely starting to take shape. Now this is something we hate doing, but thank gosh we have the capability of doing this. And with weather apps and everything else, we knew 100% weather was coming in. So we decided to tarp the whole place. We were blessed with great weather the entire time, except for the last day. They were expecting a couple inches of rain. So we were able to tarp the whole area, keep things dry so we can keep buttoning things up and finishing up towards the end here. So really all we have left to do on this is finish the wetland. You can see we're doing a lot of cobble stuff, leaving room for landscape, and then build this retaining wall in the back. Waterfalls are done, wetlands done. Just got to build this giant retaining wall. And we're going to use almost 200 total stones to do this. So one of the big things, guys, is if you're building a waterfall, think about how big that berm is going to be and how much stone you may or may not need to retain some of that berm. Because if we make it look like a volcano, the whole thing's failed. Wall's done, finishing the fire pit. This is my favorite part, just kind of getting everything finished, getting everything ready for the landscaper so the landscaper can come in and then do their magic. We leave lots and lots of room for plants, islands and peninsulas and edges for the stream. Well, I think that's enough. Why don't we turn it over to the final product here and let you guys just kind of enjoy what we did.
Finished. Even Kathy from Accent Nature came out while we were gone and finished landscaping. And there's so much to go over. Where do we start with this? And we don't even really know because there's so many places. But I think we start at the very bottom where the pumps and the entire circulatory of this thing starts at. So you come down this way, we have this deck that leads us down to some stairs. We've got some stone steps that go across a 6,000 gallon rainwater harvesting system. And when I say rainwater harvesting, we're actually accepting water from downspouts on this side of the barn and that side of the barn. All of that stuff gets piped and put down into over 200 AQUABLOX down in here. And it generates so much sound. But we needed to put the stepping stones going across because we needed a way for them to still get back over to what we've called Chicken Town and Goatville over here, where they keep goats and chickens and everything else. So this pathway allows us to just continue to walk all the way back over where they can still get to their great pets over in this spot here. The one thing they're gonna have to do with this is what we call a negative edge on a pond. So there's intake bays and negative edges. This is 100% a negative edge, where the entire pond fills up, fed by urns and waterfalls and everything else, and then overflows. So all of the leaves that fall off these trees over here, some of the new trees that Kathy has planted, get pushed over this way and pulled over this waterfall and deposit over here. And already you can see some of the stuff that I've pulled out of here. So it doesn't make it maintenance free by any means. You still got to come down here and get some of this stuff out, but you're not emptying skimmer boxes every single day. Reduces the frequency of maintenance. It also makes the pond very, very sustainable. So very, very rarely will Brett and his wife ever have to come out here and add water. With a 6,000 gallon tank, this thing's on autopilot. It'll just go and go and go. As long as it rains once every month to month and a half, that tank will fill back up and keep this pond sustainable, even running all winter long. If you come over this way, you're gonna see the stepping stones. Now this is the part that actually was a little head scratching. How do we do stepping stones and make them look separate from these stones that go down in here? It got a little tight in here, but I think it worked out really nice. It was a huge change in design. Originally, this was gonna be a patio that cantilevered out over the pond. And because of some drainage issues, if you look at this driveway up over here to my right, you can see how the whole thing pitches this way, then comes back at us. When they get a heavy, heavy rainfall, all of that water funnels down to the corner of this, and we had to do a dry stream bed with 6 or 8 inch drain pipe underneath. If I put a patio here, that patio is gonna stop all of that water from wanting to move the way it naturally wanted to move through the property. So by putting a deck here, that water is able to move right underneath the deck and go off down into nature like it's been doing forever. It's also allowed us the opportunity to then really cantilever this deck. And this deck was done by Austin Whisker Construction. And I'll tell you what, the guy was a genius. He came out here and within 10 hours did this entire circle deck custom to this pond. When I say custom, look at these joints. Cut all of these boards to fit right around that, and it just looks like it's been here forever. The deck then invites you to walk across these stepping stones where you're greeted by fish. And the fish are sitting here all the time because of all the jets that we put in from underneath this deck. Those fish love swimming against the currents, and so we made sure we put a bunch of jets here just not only to move debris out, but also invite those fish to come right up next to the viewing area. The stepping stones take us to a pathway that go by another custom feature built by Brett himself, Brett's Bridge. Brett's got a pretty awesome little workshop over there. We asked Brett if he could build us a wooden bridge. This was another change in the design. This was originally supposed to be a stone slab. The stone slabs we were looking at just weren't meshing, I think, with the style. And I think because we did a wood deck there, having a wood deck over here, or wooden bridge, really ties together. Every time we do a bridge, I always say it's gotta lead to something, and look at what it takes you to. By far my favorite spot. You can see the bowl on the right. This is our new 60-inch bowl. A 40-inch bowl just was gonna be totally out of scale with this pond. So we brought in the 60-inch bowl. This was another change in design. This was never to be incorporated with the pond. We looked at using some of the fire bowls and stuff, but the size of the fire bowls was gonna be out of scale, so we just went with this bowl. So you come over in here, and this is so awesome. Brett found this custom rock from Idaho. We set this thing up. One of the big challenges we had was running gas lines and the plumbing lines and the electric and everything over here, but we did all that early on in the stages of construction, got all that stuff out here. Local plumbing company came out here, got this hooked up for us after we set it. But what an awesome space. And this is the reason I like this space, is that I can visualize what it's gonna look like. All these plants get bigger and bigger and bigger. This spot's gonna feel cozier and cozier. It's just such a great spot to sit. I love that the bridge leads to it, and it also gives you another view of the rest of Brett's property. How about these waterfalls? We've got a biofalls up there. We've got 2 pumps going to it. We have 2 9PLs feeding this waterfall. So we have a little over 15,000 gallons, right around 15,000 gallons of water coming over this waterfall. Then the whole thing to be visible from one of Brett and Kathy's favorite rooms, that 2nd floor addition up in there. So all of that sound is really shot that way. In fact, when you're sitting over here, you can hardly hear it. Love the way that waterfall twists and turns. Love the way it comes off this rock on the bottom, kind of rolling over the top. One of the things that's interesting about this waterfall though is the placement of it. When I was out here with Jack from Atlantis and Ralph from Pondscapes AZ, we're always thinking about the circulation, kind of learning from mistakes we've made on other ponds. And so notice that this waterfall, the current is really pushed that way. We didn't want that current to go this way because all the windblown debris that falls over there, if this waterfall was pushing the water that way, it would want to stop those leaves from moving this way. By taking this water, pushing it that way, it helps with the circulation. Even the placement of this big rock out here was strategic, and the idea that as water came down, we wanted that current to hit this and kind of push off that way, which really, really helps with moving all that debris. Yeah, the rock placement has a lot to do with aesthetics, but it also has a lot to do with the function of the entire pond. Speaking of function, let's move up to what I would call the kidneys of the pond, the big wetland filter. So right behind me is the main wetland filter. Now this wetland filter done a lot different than typical wetland filters. First, the aesthetics of it. Let's just talk about how different the aesthetics of it are. Most wetland filters have shallow gravel. Stuff like this in here, and water moves up through the gravel. Brett really wanted to have 12 inches of standing water in that wetland so kids could get in there. It looks more like an upper pool, and I so agree with him. I think aesthetically, that slightly deeper water in there looks so awesome. The other thing we did, just to give some more visual interest, because it was such a big wetland, we added our trio of 3 stacked urns back in there, making it more visible from the swimming pool, making it more visible from up in the house, making it very visible as you pull down the driveway, and you kind of get the sense that there's something going on in the backyard. I love the urns because they're visible from 360 degrees, and it adds a lot of height without having that crazy, crazy tall berm. Now below all that are 56 small AQUABLOX, and then on top of those small AQUABLOX are 56 full-size AQUABLOX filled with bio balls, and 1,500 bio balls per AQUABLOX. This is a massive, massive filter. The filter is almost 3 times the size that we would normally need for a pond this size, but this allows Brett to really get into the hobby of koi, pick out some large koi, let these koi get big, feed the fish 4, 5, 6 times a day if he wants to, and the filter can handle all that, and that's why we did it. The whole thing overflows through a really, really unusual looking waterfall. You can see this area I'm standing on now. There's this big cobble wash strategically put in so the sight lines don't block this waterfall. Notice down here how that waterfall comes down and drops into about 1.5 inches of gravel. Again, that was strategically done, and the reason we wanted to do that, if you think of a tall waterfall that drops down into a pond, it can also often create like a back current, pulling debris towards it. If that waterfall drops and then moves through some shallow gravel, that water wants to push across the surface a little bit more. So this rock and some of these are strategically placed again so that water doesn't push this way, it pushes back this way, circulating this cove before it moves back around, hitting the jets from underneath the deck, the aerator, and pushing that debris this way. Again, there's so much thought process that goes into the currents and the mechanics of how these things work. It's not just all about aesthetics. And then even thinking about, like, all right, here's gonna be a great area here for a bunch of aquatic plants to soften the height of this. If you come up in the wetland, back behind the giant tree we found on Brett's property, we can load up with some taller stuff like pickerel. Maybe he'll even do some more tropical stuff like elephant ear and papyrus and stuff like that. Last big construction part of this project is the retaining wall. And maybe not the sexiest part of it. It doesn't have water flowing over it. Not a lot of people are gonna see it, but such an important part. Brett really wanted to get some height out of that waterfall over there, and you can see how this yard just pitches so hard this way. So we took all of the soil generated from the excavation of the pond, all of the soil generated from that giant wetland, piled it up over here, and you can see how big of a berm it created. It was way too steep, so we had to come in here and do this massive retaining wall. This retaining wall has over 200 stones in it, all ranging from 500 pounds to 2,000 pounds. And so we built this, and I love the way it turned out. It's such an organic process. We treat these retaining walls a lot like building the pond. Let one rock speak to the next, and we just kind of keep going. But I love all the terraces that we were able to create. It's actually such a beautiful wall. I would make a main pathway coming around the backside just to enjoy the wall. All right, guys, couldn't wrap up this video without doing a huge shout out to a couple really, really important people. Let's start with Team Aquascape. Jack Paszynski, Andrew Pape, You guys are awesome. Couldn't have done it without you. Jack Harju from Atlantis Water Garden. Love you, bud. We've been doing these travel projects for quite some time. So awesome to have on the job site. Ralph Bezad from Pondscapes AZ. You're so awesome. You tackle every single project. It's your own, and you're such a huge asset out here.
And how can I forget Billy Harmon with Brothers Water Features. Billy and I have been on a ton of projects too. Just an awesome, awesome worker. And you can tell, because look at the arms on that guy.
And of course, last but not least, Brett and his wife, Kathy. The hospitality was like top notch. Not once did he duplicate the same lunch. Any idea you had, you just let us go with it. Thank you so much. Can't wait to come back and visit this project over and over and over again.